Okay, you're live.
Yes.
All right, great, we're live. All right, we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. We've got public comments today from Millie Schaefer. Millie?
Yes, thank you. I have 2 minutes, right?
You have 2 minutes, thank you.
Just starting. All right, I'm Dr. Millie Schaefer. I'm the head of Cincinnati Urban Deer Advocates. Most of you don't know us. We don't know you. We worked from 2014 to 2019 previously with Jim Burkhart, former supervisor of the Forest Deer Program, at his invitation. We are not your enemy. Your enemy is within. After 2019, under different leadership, it was clear that we were no longer welcome. Extensive open records requests around 2021 showed a park employee complaining to bow hunters about 2 activists. He even gave the Mount Washington Street out about one of the activists to the hunters. We have documented efforts to intimidate and harass us with the support of certain park employees. On January 17th, on my way home, I decided to take a short drive through Drake Park, where there is an amazing overlook at the pavilion. As I left, a pickup truck passed me. The driver was staring at me through his driver's side window. He was a white older male who appeared to have white fluffy or gray hair, vaguely looked familiar. I assumed it was someone who was policing the park. I left the park heading down Red Bank Road. Behind me was the pickup. Suspected I was being followed, I did a sudden right turn onto a short dead-end street with a business parking lot and simply drove around the parking lot there and headed back to Red Bank. He did the same. Clearly being followed, I decided to directly cross Red Bank Road to another dead-end street, made a very sharp U-turn and drove right back up to Red Bank Road. The driver was now directly across from me, caught by surprise. He stopped. I reached down and pulled out my pocket camera. He turned on his headlights to see what I was doing. I quickly focused it through the windshield of the truck and I took the picture of the truck and everything else. This is a 1999 Chevrolet Silverado, older pickups often used by bow hunters. I suspect he's one of your bow hunters. This is information I want you to do. Here's the truck. This is your responsibility.
Thank you.
And I want to make sure this is a matter of record. Something happens to me, the police will know where to start. Make sure all that's in the record. You have everything you need to track down whoever did this.
Thanks for coming in, Millie. We did receive one comment this month via our public email address. We encourage you to send those comments to us. This one was in regard to the Burnett Wood Bandstand. With that, we can move into the main part of the meeting. Our first is meeting minutes. March 19th meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We need to roll call.
Oh, we need a roll call because
Yeah.
we have Commissioner McCollum on virtual attendance.
President North,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini,
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum,
Maybe a thumbs up.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Yes.
For all of the video world to see.
All right, our next action item is the annual election of officers. We have 3 roles to appoint. For president, the next is for vice president, and the third is first representative to the Cincinnati Recreation Commission Board of Commissioners. So first we'll elect the president. Is there a motion? We can also discuss.
Yes.
May I move for the continuation of President North as president for another term?
With pleasure.
I second it.
Thank you. Great. We'll roll call that. Should we roll call them all together or one at a time?
Oh, we can do one at a time.
All right, we'll roll call one at a time.
President North, Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini,
Susie?
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum,
Yes.
Chair Snyder.
Yes.
And now we'll move to vice president.
I move for the continuation of Vice President Lee for another term as Vice President.
I'll second that.
Okay. I would like to discuss that for a moment. You also represent us in the CRC commission, so I ask if you are so willing to take on all these responsibilities.
Yes.
Okay, with appreciation. Well, roll call Vice President?
President North,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini,
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum,
Yes,
Mayor Knine.
Yes.
Okay. And then representative to the Cincinnati Recreation Commission Board of Commissioners. And I think this role requires residency in the city of Cincinnati. Is that right?
Does sound right, yeah.
So is there a motion?
I would move for Commissioner Lee to continue in that role for another year as well.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Roll call?
President North,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini,
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum,
yes.
Commissioner Knine.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I'm excited for another great year serving Cincinnati Parks. I know the other commissioners. Let's go to Hyatt Park. We have guests from 3CDC here today. Welcome.
Thank you.
As they get up to join us, just real quick, Madam President. The air conditioning in this building, you either have heat or air conditioning. And so we have a changeover of May 1st. So all the windows are open because it gets rather hot after yesterday's 85-degree day. If it gets loud at any point, or if it gets too hot at any point, we can open doors or close windows. So
Well, I was noting to our park staff that the irony of the sweet smell of honeysuckle fills the room. That is nice. It's the one redeeming quality.
let us know if you want us to change it up.
The great breeze coming through here.
Will you introduce yourself to our
Hi, I'm Katie Westbrook. I'm the Executive Vice President of Development at 3CDC, and thank you for having us here. I'm also joined by Paula Boggs-Muthing, our Chief Operating Officer. Yes. Thank you so much for having us. We are excited to be with you and talk about CBD North, really centered around Hyatt. Up on the screen, you can see an overview map of this section of downtown. CBD North is really that area on Vine Street, kind of bound by the 700 block all the way up to Court Street. This section of downtown has drastically changed since COVID, with a lot of office buildings converting to residential. The library was recently renovated and it feels really different. 3CDC has had our eyes on this as needing to be the next kind of focus area to really build that stronger connection between Trump Square and over the Rhine. A key piece of this is Hyatt Park, which I recently learned is one of the oldest park in Cincinnati. And we are excited to sit here and talk to you guys about looking at redeveloping that. A key piece to ensuring that all this development can happen is really looking at the financing stack. And so we are here today to talk about getting approval for Hyatt Park entering into a transformational mixed-use development tax credit application at the state of Ohio. So along with Hyatt Park, there are several other key assets that 3CDC is looking to likely include in this. There's a few surface parking lots, so some new construction. There is the Garfield Suites Hotel, the Fort Hotel, Garfield Garage. So in total, we're estimating somewhere north of $120 million of eventual investment in this district. And we feel that Hyatt Park is really a key to the success. On slide 4, you can see kind of some images of what we envision happening in this area. We'll get into the details about transforming Hyatt Park. There's some mixed use development featuring residential at 7th and Vine, at the former Jean Rivera Table site. And then also looking at improving the Garfield Garage, and then hopefully one day seeing some new life take place at the Garfield, which sat vacant for about 10 years. Hyatt Park in particular has faced challenges over the past several years. I think that the misuse of the park has really been enabled because of a lot of the vacancy around there. The loss of office workers and the transformation of those buildings into residential that took several years. There's a lot of drug use, just kind of unwanted behavior in our parks. And so we are excited to start partnering with the city and parks on re-envisioning Hyatt Park into something new. And we've started exploring some brief concepts, but really feel that there needs to be a much deeper dive over the next year and a half to really decide what this site needs, but addressing some of the misuse, making sure it's safe for pedestrians, making sure that it makes sense for drivers. That area can be a little confusing if you're driving, east and west across Garfield. So we've been looking and exploring just very, high level concepts. How do we better position this and make it an asset for downtown residents and business owners. We envision working closely with the city on this process and engaging much more with the public at the right time. Just flipping through a couple shots of what this could look like in the future, but an expanded kind of public plaza area, still maintaining that strong tree canopy. And this view here is looking on Race Street, looking east towards Vine Street. So a requirement of the TMUD application is for the applicant to have control of all the properties that are being submitted. And so we are here today to request approval for the Cincinnati Park Board to authorize the recommendation that the city of Cincinnati enter into a lease between 3CDC and the city for Hyatt Park. 3CDC would then immediately turn back and lease it to the city to allow operations to continue as they are. The term of the lease is 39 years to prove that control. And then the city has the right to immediately terminate if the tax credits are not awarded. And hopefully we are successful though, and then we're able to work over the next 12 months to better define a plan and how we're going to move this project forward. Happy to discuss, answer questions.
Comments, questions for Katie? Jason, would you like to give any perspective on the staff's?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I first moved to Cincinnati, I lived right next to Hyatt Park and spent quite a bit of time there. And obviously when I was at City Hall, I walked through there all the time, had my lunch there. It's a great park. It's one of the great wedding photo venues in the city with the arch lights. 3CDC partners with us to try to get the proper attention there. Obviously, we, like many parks, we take care of the horticulture, and 3CDC's Downtown Ambassador program partners with us to try to program the space and try to make sure that the space stays cleaned up and gets attention in the hours that our team aren't there. I think this is a great opportunity to redevelop the space. It is our first park. We've talked to Crystal Courtney and our Division of Natural Resources team about the trees that are there. Obviously, the trees are in those kind of raised planters. And so that was my first concern, is making sure we maintain the canopy and kind of do what's best for that, because that's such a valuable amenity there. Unfortunately, or maybe timing fortunately, the trees are honey locusts and they're towards the end of their kind of natural life. This was last redeveloped around the late 80s, early 90s. Ironically, our new plan design director, Travis Miller, was working with Meisner Architects at the time, and this was a big project for them. And so at the beginning of his career, he was at least in the same office as this project was happening. So things come full circle. But it's been there for 35 years now. And so the trees are kind of at that point. And so I think this is a great opportunity, both to take advantage of the redevelopment that 3CDC is going to try to do anyways, and to try to bring another park improvement using state money, right? You got to like that. And so I think there's lots to decide about this. From the beginning, 3CDC is committed to kind of a joint development of this to figure out what it should look like. These images are beautiful, but that isn't necessarily what it'll be. We'll sit down together and we'll work together with Travis's team to kind of come up with what's the best final result. Obviously, we got to talk to the Department of Transportation about, do we reconfigure the roads? Is that needed? Is it not needed? There's a lot of resident input to get, a lot of community input to get. But the key thing is, as always, getting the money. And this is a big renovation and a big number. So we would recommend supporting this lease, it doesn't really obligate us to anything other than letting 3CDC, partnering with 3CDC to try to get this money. So would be a real positive.
It's a great idea. It's just a plain great idea. Our oldest park, come on.
I think the lease structure is a really smart way to do that. I don't know to who in that accommodation goes, if it was the original ask or what was reached at, but I think the de-risked nature of if the state, it just gives us a chance to run hard at it, but not an obligation or reduction of amenity if that doesn't turn out to be successful. So I really like that structure to enable, we can reach for second with our foot almost still on first. So I like that.
Well, I'm just gonna add that I love the idea of working with 3CDC on this. When we look at our list of priorities, the list is deep and long, and beyond that list are so many more things that we desire to work on. So one of the great ways that we can get more done is by working with public-private partners that are really capable in the area of parks, as you have been. And this, I believe, is really the only major park in the downtown and over the Rhine area that hasn't received either a complete renovation or a significant reinvestment. And I think a part of this is the reason why the downtown has become not so great. And it really serves as the bridge between CBD and over the Rhine. It's a key and critical and important area. I'm thrilled at the potential for a refurbishment of this park and look forward to the opportunity to work together. And Godspeed, we wish you success. There is an action. Jason wrote it for me. So we need a motion to authorize the director to recommend to the city administration a lease of Pyatt Park that generally follows the framework of the lease that is outlined here. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
President North,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini,
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum,
yes,
Commissioner Nye.
Yes.
Awesome.
Godspeed. Thank you.
Keep us posted, Katie. Keep us posted. Yeah, we will. Yeah, I guess that's a good question. When does the application get submitted and then when are the awards announced?
The application is submitted this month and then a little bit unknown when the awards are going to be announced, but we're thinking probably like October. So,
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we'll see you
let
this
you know.
Great.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Well, let's then move to, Skate Downtown Cincy. We have so many exciting things on the agenda this month. Thank you for.
Thank you all so much for having us today.
Why is there no one here on their skates?
Yeah, we were.
Don't get him going.
It's a nice smooth terrazzo floor. It's like. Don't.
If you're serious.
He loves it.
No, you guys are amazing. My name's Morgan Rigo for the record. I know most everybody in this room, thankfully. So I'm representing Skate Downtown Cincy. I have many of my comrades with me today. Thank you all for being here, for supporting this project.
Thank you.
What started as a grassroots initiative with Cincy Parks and Parks Foundation evolved into a CPAC, Sawyer Point, and is now a standalone 501c nonprofit partner of parks. We can't possibly thank you all enough for supporting this collective effort. Together in 2025, we reopened the skating rink for regular operating hours for the first time in nearly 2 decades. We hosted 150 programs and almost 10,000 people during those events, all at no cost to the public. We contributed to 2 statewide awards for Cincy Parks and Cincy Parks Foundation for our contributions to Teen Skate and to Cincinnati Parks and Rec for wellness. And we gave over $100,000 worth of our time to parks last year alone for our community skating sessions and our beautification efforts at Sawyer Point. We were featured on ESPN2 and we made national news on NPR for our adaptive skating programs and our all wheels welcome policy.
We reached 1.4 million people online on our social media channels and about 30,000 on our individual website, skatedowntowncincy.com, where we advertise our events. We've grown an outreach team of street skaters that have participated in every major festival and community event in town. You recently saw us in the opening day parade, but we're part of Flying Pig. We participated in Oktoberfest last year, and Black Tech Week, Photo Focus, the Warner Brothers Superman premiere, and as well as contributed to the fundraising efforts of the Parks Foundation at Hats Off, Cincy Rec Commission, and Cincinnati Hamilton County Public Library. And the after-school program that we catalyzed 2 years ago is now in 5 elementary schools. They've taken that, they've run with it, and they're growing. We've been fully committed to this and are deepening our commitment this year with our time, our creativity, and our resources. In 2026, we were planning to again host around 150 healthy, active, playful opportunities for all ages and a wide variety of interest groups to participate with us in our parks. To build and grow our youth programs, we trained and credentialed our program leaders this year so they would be prepared to lead with confidence and keep people safe in the park. That included first aid and CPR certifications. Together with Cincy Parks, we just recently launched NHL Street Youth Hockey at Sawyer Point with the Boys and Girls Club of Cincinnati and the Columbus Blue Jackets, Ohio's only NHL team. In an age where most youth sports have become too competitive, time-consuming, and expensive, our league is open gender, accessible to all abilities and incomes, and beginner-friendly. The focus is collaboration over competition. Instead of rivalry, we build confidence and courage through cooperation and teamwork. This is less Mighty Ducks and more like the Savannah Bananas of street hockey. This Saturday, we're painting a skatable mural on the rink as part of a national initiative, US at 250, a national initiative that allows communities to define what it means to be patriotic in this day and age. At the rink, it means civic participation. Our community inspired and defined the subject, which was thoughtfully captured and conceived by Cincinnati artist Pam Kravitz. And our community, the people in this room with me, will help paint the rink. The mural is titled "In the Hands of the People," and it's going to serve as a reminder that in a democracy, the people are in charge. This message to our future leaders is that community participation is essential. Our group is not afraid of rolling up our sleeves. Each year, we've partnered with parks to make improvements at the rink. We are one of the most active CPACs within parks. Already this year, we've hosted 4 volunteer events prior to park season, with 2 more happening this week. We're in our 4th year of patching concrete cracks in the rink, but several of these cracks are embedded deep in the rink's infrastructure and present still a safety concern. We've been told by civil engineers that the only remedy is to regrade and resurface the rink. This is foundational to everything we offer. This year, we're doubling down on our teen programs. Last year, our award-winning Teen Skate served more than 70 zip codes. Half of the areas most represented by our audience are among the top 10 neighborhoods most affected by gun violence in Cincinnati. Words I hear from our youth again and again were, "I had to get out." Cincinnati teens are coming to Sawyer Point because they don't feel safe in their own neighborhoods. During a time when teens are restricted from most businesses, we are providing a healthy, safe space where they can meet friends, get active, and enjoy themselves without spending any money. Our momentum this year is palpable, and I know this is the year to invest in a youth destination downtown. What a gift to the city it would be to roll out a new playground and skating rink together. And I would love for you to consider applying railroad funds to this project. Thank you very much.
Well, it's always great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. You're in the skate season right now. Great. And tell us where we can find information about your events.
You can find them on the parks calendar or on statedowntowncincy.com.
Okay. Let's see. We are up to planning and design. Travis, you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have two action items for you this morning for your consideration and some updates as well that we'll go through. But jumping in on the action items, you're all familiar with City Campus and proceeding towards our 100% plan documentation and getting that out to bid later this season. There's an additional item that we need to include, and we need some funding to be able to include in those documentation, and it's for IT infrastructure. KZF would be subcontracting this, but still the lead. The cost is $12,580. That's the amount of the change order I'm asking for your approval of today. Happy to answer any questions on that.
This would add that scope to a contract that started before I started here. The original contract with KZF was design the DNR headquarters on Ludlow. They also explored when we were looking at Deal Road to reposition natural resources and then ultimately to renovate Senton. In October of 24, we expanded their contract to include kind of all of Senton and the full scope that we're now finishing out. But at that time, we didn't have any contingency added. We just added the amount of scope that was needed to finish those drawings. And so now we want to make sure that we have the IT scope in those drawings so that when we bid it out, it all gets done. We don't have to have another contractor come on after the fact. So it's ready to go from day one.
Refresh me, when are these designs due from?
Our target was April, so we're in the moment there. We're fine tuning. There's a few. I was actually corresponding internally with staff just yesterday. KZF had some final questions for us to put down for them. So my expectation is we'll respond to those, if not today, tomorrow, certainly by the end of the week. And so we're still shooting I'm hoping for late April, early May to have the final documentations for our
Construction drawing.
They are.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they're ready to go to the street for bid. We'll still need to spend some time, make sure that they're ready. So we're still going to have, maybe up to 6 weeks of internal review and finalizing things before they're ready to bid, but we're getting very close.
Great. Good.
And this item, I should have said, the IT package, we know will take 3 weeks for that contractor to get this $12,000 to get spent and their work to be inserted in those documents.
Any question?
In the interest of expediency, would it be appropriate to add the old saw is projects expand to fill all of all time and budget, but they don't. They're well managed, they're understood, they're governed. So I don't have a concern about adding a bit more contingency in the interest of expediency. So if there is an additional, I'm not trying to be a drunken sailor, but I just think we know where we're going. We're committed to the project. If an additional contingency is appropriate, I don't have concern that it would be poorly spent. And I think it might add some or help keep some velocity if we'd like to. I submit that for consideration of the group.
I just want the thing done.
We all.
I know, it's been.
Manana plan is not my idea of heaven.
I think it's 12,590 was the request, I think.
Yeah, I remember last time we approved this, I think he said, we really want to hold them to this contract, so. Wasn't this the one that you
Yep.
said?
That sounds right.
They're right there.
I mean, yeah, I don't anticipate us needing any additional new scope, and they're not saying that they need anything to accomplish the scope that's done. This is the last kind of new scope. It's always helpful to have pre-approval for some minor stuff that they come up, but I don't expect there to be anything else. So I think either way we'll be fine. As Travis said, we're hopeful that we can, be bringing this forward to you guys pretty soon.
So no additional, okay.
I think we're fine.
Motion to approve,
So moved.
second,
Second,
President Norris,
yes.
Vice President Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Castellini,
yes.
Mr. McCallum,
yes,
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Second action item is Rapid Run Park. This is a project we were have been proceeding on to improve underground plumbing, which we're making strides on. in the process of that work, recognize that inside the comfort station, the fixtures do need to be replaced. In adding that to the contract, that puts us just over the $50,000 threshold, which brought me here today to ask for your permission to proceed with a change order of $16,172. Again, this will be focused on the furnishings within the comfort station, puts us at a total of $50,181.
Questions on this discussion?
And this funding does come from, it's a renovation project, so coming from the Cincinnati on-track funding.
Exciting. I'm excited to see continued improvements in rapid run. That's for sure. Such a great park. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
President Norton,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes,
McDonald,
yes, yes.
yes,
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. On to some updates, and I'll go through quickly. I've got a few I want to feature. Your report included a longer list. I'm happy to answer any questions. There's one on that list I don't want to forget. I do want to bring up what's not on the slides, but I'll come back to that. The first item, we've got a slide for. This is Burnett Woods. We've got a long list of repair projects, as well as planning projects that are going to be moving forward in the coming months in Burnett Woods. I actually have a meeting May 6th with the community to go through a number of projects, this being one of many. But I wanted to focus on this one particular because I'll be coming to you in the future, short future, with a request for funding. As you can see, we've got some damage. This is along Burnett Lake. This is the walkway along Burnett Lake. The image on the left, I know you can't see. I believe it was printed in your packet. You may see a little closer. Those pictures were taken and inventory and evaluation was done a few years ago, back in 23. Revisiting the pictures on the right were done this February. The wall, the concrete curb that you see against the water, that's a wall that is leaning into the lake. We don't know the condition we know the condition of the footer is bad of the wall. We don't know how extensive. We don't know the repair until we do some geotechnical analysis. We've proceeded with CEC, just got them under contract in the past weeks. So they're just getting started on the work to do the preliminary findings. So once those preliminary findings are done, they'll be able to put together a design package and construction document package for us, which will exceed the $50,000 threshold. So I'll be back with more information and more intelligence on what we need to do to move forward with this, but just wanted to let you know we are moving forward. Again, with a lot of other projects in Burnett Woods that we'll keep you posted on as we proceed. And then next up.
I want to talk about
Questions? Sure, please.
this is a very important lake. It is very busy in the evenings. It's very busy in the mornings from people from all different neighborhoods, college students. And the condition is very poor. This walkway, you can even see here, is very poor. You know, I think we stopped using asphalt some years ago because it's right.
Making the situation
Yeah,
worse.
I mean, this is a heavily visited park. It's a heavily visited lake and it warrants some investment on our part. And, you know, my question on this lake is, my thinking without knowing anything about dredging lakes is that it needs to be dredged. It's hard telling what is in the bottom of that lake. I guess it's a whole lot of litter. And I know we had talked some time ago about something that might occur with MSD that could help us with a partnered plan on the lake.
Mm.
I'd like to get your thoughts on this and get your perspective on what our capacity is to address both the environment around the lake and the environment of the lake itself.
Well, timely question, but we just heard back from MSD yesterday that they've got some preliminary plans that they've been developing, and we had a meeting set up, I believe it's next week or the week after, to see those first plans. So we're proceeding on all fronts in Burnett Woods. You know, as with everything, things take time, but you know, a year ago, we put several projects around Burnett Woods into our Cincinnati on Track, our first edition of Cincinnati on Track funding. Travis has been here a little over 3 months, meeting 4 for him, and those projects are starting to come to life, and we're really excited about them. But it includes this walkway, it includes the masonry steps, which admittedly have not happened as quickly as as Cynthia's pointed out, has not happened as quickly as I'd like him to. And we're really excited that that's moving forward now too. And that's in here as well as something that's moving forward. This is one of the projects. The bandstand roof is one of the projects. There's one more, I think. But anyways, we're finally moving forward on all of them, and it's really exciting. We've also established a couple of kind of big picture planning conversations we want to start with the community about. The stormwater is one of them. Kind of the plaza in front of Trailside is one of them. We open it now for cars to go through occasionally, or for summer camps, but that's a kind of a road that's not a road anymore. Is there an opportunity to redo that? Kind of the road diet idea with there's a lot of asphalt that we long ago shut down. Can we open some of that back up? And then the bandstand in general has like a giant asphalt oval. The other project is the asphalt driveway, which we've got a plan in place to address the kind of bottom first 200 feet, and then we'll continue to kind of move up. But we want to rethink with the community kind of what should that area look like? Should it stay the way it is? Should we turn it into should we create a parking lot and then get rid of a lot of the asphalt that's the loop? Like, we don't know. And so Travis has got a couple ideas about how to enter into that kind of planning community conversation. But we're really excited to start to invest and start to activate these dollars that we set aside a bit ago. So this is one of the big ones.
There will be no shortage of input on this. And, Burnett Woods, I think needs even its own priority plan. There are so many projects needed.
Agreed.
And getting community input on what's the most important thing to the community, I think could really help us focus our efforts on what's the most important thing in Burnett Woods. Because I think we need to do better at chipping away at these things that Burnett Woods.
We're ramping up.
Yeah. This is what you came here for, Cynthia. Of course not.
I totally agree with you. That patch isn't right. And didn't Great Parks drain a lake a recent date?
Sharon Woods.
And Sharon Woods, correct. So.
Yeah.
And start all over again,
Yeah.
clean it all up.
Much bigger, like a big project. Yes, they did. It's a
Yeah.
major undertaking. So there's some local resources to learn from too.
Absolutely.
A shortage of projects. Okay, thank you for the positive.
Well, thank you. Thanks for all the input in the discussion.
I had a structural question with that. One of the pieces of feedback we received through public comment was from the Burnett Woods Advisory Council. Structurally, I just want to make sure we have a mechanism when there is structurally, does that public comment do you route that to department heads that are impacted, or what's, I just want to make sure that the public has a sense that they know where that's going when that comes in, because that's one of the means of input to have that. So you get that same feedback. Do you then direct it to the relevant department heads, or I don't think I'm doing a good job asking the question.
Yeah, I might not understand what you're directing.
So
If anytime we get requests that are for other departments to handle or under their purview.
no, I mean within parks, when we receive public feedback, the commissioners get the public comments. I just want to make sure
Correct.
that
yeah.
they don't
Yep.
stop there.
Yep.
That they go,
So Rocky's team, community engagement and volunteers team, they handle all customer service requests and they route them to the appropriate department or the appropriate section of parks to handle and to address.
Got it.
And then sometimes it's something that's like, great, thanks for telling us. We'll get over there and get it fixed. And other times it's like, we know lots of broken stuff. It's on the list and we're going to tackle it when we can. So it just depends on.
I assumed that would be the answer,
Mhm.
but assumption didn't seem like the best move there. So thank you for verifying that. Yeah.
Specific to the Burnett Woods bandstand comment, I think I received that immediately coming in. And it's a comment that it was a very formal comment, obviously, but it's one that we were aware of and are working towards. Just a moment on that, on where we're at. Bandstand is in very poor condition, needs a complete analysis and renovation. We're starting with the roof. Part of the budget, the line item that we have in the Cincinnati on track is to get the roof done. So we're proceeding with that this year with the understanding that there's a more universal look at that structure, and accessibility is certainly a big part of that look and consideration as we move forward on the design. So that'll be in phases. The first phase will be tackling the roof and doing that right so that we're protecting the structure as we're figuring out the next steps that not only include the renovation and whether, and the accessibility, but as Jason talked earlier, the site around that, all of that pavement, is there a better way to use that land, and can that function better for how the community is using the park? We think that the answer is yes to that. We need to engage with the community to fully understand what improvements, but I see that as being a portion of a master plan look at Burnett Woods. Not that we don't need to look more comprehensively at Burnett Woods, but that area certainly needs some planning attention and some community engagement before we can jump into making decisions on accessibility and other things.
There's a lot of low hanging fruit.
That's recognizing, but it's fine. It's all good.
Great. Thank you.
No, thank you for the discussion and all the input. So next up, I wanted to share Glenway. So shifting over to Price Hill. As you're aware, we're proceeding with designs of the entrance. In this park, we're looking at various components and moving forward in various components, and not necessarily. So the master planning work is being done in-house by your staff, by us, but carving up the construction document work. So this is one feature, one element, that being the accessible entrance. So what you're looking at in the image is the current entrance into the park that doesn't meet ADA. It's steeper. So we are going to be lowering the grade at the top a couple of feet, as well as introducing a new alignment to the pathway that's curvilinear to get us at a more gradual slope up into the park. So what you see on the right-hand side, and this is a better image. Yeah. This is the conceptual plan. This was concept one. There was a series of concepts that they delivered. We reviewed, talked about the pros and cons. This was the preferred, although not the ideal. So they're still proceeding. Tomorrow is the deadline. We expect to get a refined version of this. But to point out to you some of the important things, the curvilinear path that I've already explained, get you to grade at a softer incline. The path up the middle is for facilities and for maintenance, getting vehicles, which is needed to get up into the park. So integrating those two needs into one design. Some of the downside of this, as we reviewed, is how prominent that central pathway is. We really want the prominent path to be the curvilinear path, taking folks in and wanting people to take that avenue, everybody to take that avenue. So the path up the middle will be downplayed, but still very functional in terms of equipment, trucks getting up to do maintenance, to remove garbage, and all the things that we need to get vehicles to the top of that hill for.
And this probably ignorance of mine, there will be bollards there, correct?
There would be at the end, and that's one of the design elements that we worked through. There's no way around bollards. We need to have a wide enough path for a vehicle, but we don't want everybody's vehicle coming in. Right. So working through, we don't want the bollards to be the first thing you see. So integrating that in a tasteful and in a design respectful way was one of the challenges that the consultant VET is currently working on, and I'm sure we'll see a solution tomorrow, if not later today. They're usually ahead of schedule, so might be today. So we're in a good spot with this. Other elements on this include a playground, include a loop path. So this project will, in this park, there's a sidewalk that goes halfway around the top. We're going to be connecting that all the way around. So there's a walking path. Lighting is a consideration. You can see in the concept some lighting being introduced. So that's something we're continuing to talk about. What's the appropriate level in terms of investment and in terms of activities at the park. So working through those details, but that's coming together. We received this week. We had a community meeting in March where we shared and where we were on each of the components, received input from the community. They've continued to talk. They've continued to have meetings amongst themselves and in different sectors of the community. So we received a comprehensive email earlier this week from some community members on continuing that conversation. So it's exciting. They're excited, and we can't help but be excited about the design work we're doing when the community's that excited about getting together and sending us more input. So, excuse me. Any questions on Glenway?
It's a different vision than instead of PPE collecting needles, right? This is very exciting, spectacular.
And the last feature update I have is a completed project in Mount Airy Arboretum. We fixed the septic tank, which isn't a sexy project, but for the staff Goodness.
Whoops.
I went in here.
Yeah. This was completed just this month. So we have operational bathrooms in the Arboretum building. So this required some boring underneath concrete. You can see some fresh concrete. We didn't need to replace everything, but we did damage some concrete. So we replaced some sections. But again, the most important thing is we have a functional bathroom in this building. We've got a few more septic tanks to complete in other parts, Farland being one that's underway now. And then Rapid Run we talked about earlier. Millionaires Club at Burnett Woods won't be a septic tank, that's sanitary sewer, but working on that as well. So we've got some other just nuts and bolts that we're putting together just to have functional facilities that will be happening this season. And then again, I can answer any questions on the updates that were in your packet. The one I want to point to is the treehouse in Mount Airy. Everybody's treehouse that was here last month with change order request to replace a beam, and I've shared with you that it's likely going to push the opening back to June. Good news is we're ahead of schedule on the beam. The beam is actually already in place, so that's not slowing us down. But the roof on this structure, something that we had planned to do with our staff, with our facility staff, when we got closer to the point of doing it. I think there's been some case since the first evaluation that happened out there as well. The wiser decision is to contract this, to include the big contract that we're working on. So we're getting estimates on that. I'll be back next month with the change order. We used some contingency on the last round, but we're exceeding that, or at least we expect to. We're still working on getting the estimates. The other item on that is you'll see next month, some of the posts along the railing, not the structural posts, but just the post holding the railing. There's some rot on. So as we were doing the cleaning and the final polish, there's about 10 posts that while we're in and doing the work, our staff recommendation is that we replace, but there's a cost associated with that. So I'll be back next month with the change order on it. And by the time that's approved and the roof is on, we're still going to be looking at a June opening. But we're moving forward on it. And I can answer any questions about the project or any others that you have on the list.
Go ahead, please.
I was gonna dispute your characterization of plumbing as not sexy because, well, if it remained in a state of disrepair, Meyer Lake is imperiled. And that is sexy. And so being ahead of that rather than, having to restore I recognize it's not conventionally seen as the fun stuff, but it keeps the fun stuff fun. So I appreciate that foresight.
Definitely.
I'm just curious about one thing on the de-icing situation with Lytle Park.
Yeah.
Is there any way not to have to use that stuff? How about good old sand?
De-icing is quick and actually more environmentally friendly than salt. There's some necessary evil. The point I would make on Lytle Park and the other places we're seeing problems, particularly in Lytle Park, is really the only place we've seen. It wasn't the only culprit. It was one of many culprits. And so we're working with a contractor to replace concrete there. And they're partnering with us on those replacements. Some of the issues was the concrete mix that came out, the finishing technique that was done. Technology is changing everything, and concrete isn't different, isn't unique. Concrete is changing. The technology in concrete mixes and what's used in blends have changed in the last decade. So how they're finished, how we desalt them are all things that we need to be schooled on better. So I'm glad you raised the issue. We've been working closely with the University of Cincinnati. They too have had similar issues with concrete, large areas of concrete that we had in Lytle. So they've learned from trying to figure out, is it de-icing, is it finishing, is it the mix? And the reality is it's all of the above. So understanding those variables, how they come together, so that we can do a better job, more informed job of specifying the concrete that's going in place, making sure that the finishing techniques are the most appropriate to have the strongest concrete. That was a problem in Lytle and a problem at UC. The finishing that we were specifying and wanting was such a smooth finish that the mix that was used is not conducive to that finish. So we have weaker concrete in that top surface, which the de-icing is then aggravating and activating and advancing the decay of. So it's all of these things together. So not just the de-icing, all the one component.
Okay.
But I know that and when we learned about this, Jason and operations, quickly, we were schooling ourselves on which de-icing is appropriate and how much and how long can it be on the concrete, when to sweep it off. And I can't talk to those details, but I know there's been discussions and changes.
As you can tell, we've learned a ton about concrete over the last several months. But it's part of a larger problem. I live near the convention center, and the concrete that's brand new at the convention center went through this major storm, and it's having the exact same problem where they're going to have to either tolerate it or address it in the coming months. But there's places there where if you just rub your foot on some steps, the concrete just schleps away. And so it's the exact same problem. So it's part of a larger kind of concrete industry-wide issue. Also, last 2 years, we've had the two biggest snows in my memory, right? 8 inches one year, and then lo and behold, 10 inches the next year. So it's something we're going to continue to sharpen our pencil and get smarter at and talk to everybody to try to find out what the best practices are.
I mentioned UC. UC is actually learning from Federal Highway. There was an event in Kentucky where UC sent some folks down. We were able to learn from what they learned down there. So this is a nationwide, maybe global issue just because of the technology changes. So we're working to stay ahead of it. And for us, it comes back to the specifications. So we're moving forward with new concrete projects, making sure we're specifying again to have the most durable concrete.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Years. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Great. Before you go, we have our 3-year plan that will be due to issue another one in June-ish, mid-year. We have a bunch of things that are right on track. I know we've stumbled into some challenges with the treehouse, as we've discussed. But the things that are due to be completed this year are the treehouse, the snail stage lawn, the comfort station, and the Eden Park steps. And then we'll be looking into construction for 2027. And then likely bring some of these next up projects into view, so.
Which we're already working on to make sure that we can get that
Right.
into view, so.
Right, well, we all start getting excited and anxious when we're a month or two or out from the update because things are changing rapidly. So y'all are getting a lot of work done. So nice work.
Thank you.
Josh.
We do have one more set of hot off the presses. Just yesterday, we participated with Cincinnati Parks Foundation in a donor tour of Lot 23. This is the part of Smale Park that is the stage lawn right in front of the Brickey Music Center. So we did a tour of that with the donors, and that's a project that over $3.5 million of it was raised by the foundation to go along with some city funding. The tour went really great. We had a lot of kind of learned from Universal, who pulled off to the side and was asking about their concrete issues. And so trying to learn every chance I get. But like just a couple of photos of the group we got together to tour that's coming along really well. That's one where, like everything, we found out yesterday that we might see about a month or two delay as they're waiting for the granite from the quarries. They get all of let me see if I can get these right in my head, but they get all of the limestone from Michigan and they get the granite from up in Minnesota. And so they were having meetings that afternoon with the quarry folks to learn about the timing and when they could get that. It's for some of the more like detailed and specific pieces that have a lot more. They're not just the big stones, but everything's still moving forward, at pace. They got a little delayed by the winter weather that we just discussed, but everything's moving really well there.
Well done. Questions or comments for Travis?
Carry on, you poor devil.
Thank you.
100 days in.
About.
Great. Okay, we have Commissioner Nyer, you're up regarding the endowment distribution.
I am indeed, and thank you to the tremendous team of Parks for the preparation of this. I will give all of you credit for being literate and will not read it to you line by line, but I do want to call out a few particular items. One is just thanking the members of that committee who share their time. It's not an enormous amount of time, but it's an expertise that is valued, and they could be spending that time elsewhere. So I want to call out Catherine Crawford, Carrie DiPietro, Wally Lynch, Steve Pullman, and then our Parks members teams, Hedda and Kirby and Jason also join that committee. So thank you to the group. Forget when our next meeting is, but anymore, there's some variation in the markets lately, but this group is well ahead of it, and I appreciate that.
Performing better than real estate stuff.
Certain real estate. An important distinction that I had to be reminded of yesterday is that the funds that are held by Fifth Third as the trustee have a different level of control. Those are held in trust, and so the Fifth Third Trust Department makes those decisions, including a distribution of 5% of the average balance of the trailing 20 quarters, I believe is where we landed, which we've now mirrored to the other funds as well. But there is less discretion in the just by the nature of how those gifts are made and how they are held today. But between we'll classify as discretionary endowment funds to an extent, the expenditure of them is all discretionary. The issuing of them from the custodian is less so. But we are recommending a distribution of $709,063 from the discretionary ones. That'll be added to the Fifth Third distribution shown above there. Unless I bollocks that up, I think questions, concerns, ideas. This is, I believe, the first year under the newly adopted policy, the policy the committee recommended and the board adopted of a 5% of a preceding 20 quarters average.
Well, yeah, so in August, we did the first year of it.
So this is the second year, okay.
So in August was when we did a lot of the cleanup, where we have stripped all of the ancillary revenue or grants or gifts out of the endowment fund budget and put those into the appropriate budgets for the appropriate funds for where that revenue is spent, and then realign those expenses. And now the endowment budget is just the disbursements from those endowments. We instituted the distribution policy we follow in developing the budget, always checking with the investment committee to make sure that there's no reason to change that policy. But then the other thing we've done is we've realigned the timing of the commissioner fund budget or the 430 budget to be in the spring. Our goal this year, we weren't quite to our goal of doing it at the same time as we do our other funds, but that'll be the goal for next year. And then this year, by passing it now in April, it allows us to get the ordinance drafted, passed, and ready to go, so that on July 1, when the city budget hits and is open, these funds will be available as well, which operationally will be a real improvement on for our team and how they are able to get these funds moving. So it's all part of our kind of broader cleanup and effort to improve transparency, improve accountability, and improve the efficiency of how we use these funds to make parks better.
Does the Fleischman Gardens endowment allow us to distribute less than 5%? And these are IRS.
Fleischman, I don't recall specific.
We're allowed to distribute less on any of them. None of them have, the only ones that have the automatic distribution are the ones that Fifth Third determines they have a policy. But for the other ones, in fact, there were several years where we didn't distribute at all, as the balance of distributed funds had gotten to such a level that we didn't have a need to. And that's when part of the cleanup that we kind of started the year before was to activate that balance. And as Commissioner Castellini always says, spend that money. And so we'd gotten that down to a point at which we needed to start taking distributions. But what we've done in this is we've aligned the distribution amount to the use amount, so that and there is still a balance there, as you'll see. There's a balance remaining. So if we ever have a year where the distribution drops too much, we do have a balance relying, or if there's one-time projects that come up, we have a balance we can use, but we've aligned it to the expenses. So this year, it's about $50,000 more than it was last year, which makes sense as older quarters fall off. But the idea would be that if we would have a year, it would be 50,000 less, we would be able to spread that cut amongst the other funds, similar to how we do with the city budget, where if tax revenue is less, you have to adjust accordingly. But we would align that to available revenue being for available expenses.
Can you explain to me what the difference is? Oh, I'm sorry. I see. The table 2 in this is only the discretionary distribution.
Correct.
Okay.
Basically, it's a repeat of the bottom half of table 1.
This is really helpful. The only thing I think would maybe be even more helpful is annually when we do this, I think it would be great too in the appendix or in this part to add the write-up about these endowments. We look at this once a year and I think it's helpful each year to refresh our knowledge of the use of these, the limitations of these. And there is a memo that does that. And that's valuable because as commissioners come in and out, I think for a period of time, we may have kind of lost that knowledge, especially as we had directors coming in and out. And I think you're reestablishing that well, and that could be helpful.
Yep. Well, I'll send that out to you. If I don't get to it
Right.
today, I'll send that to you early next week, and then but absolutely.
We've all got it.
Yeah.
but
No, definitely.
have it.
Putting it to the top.
Yep.
Great. Really helpful to have these $1 million of funds every year to help us take care of these parks.
So rather than have a vote on the distribution, since the policy is kind of a set policy, this is more of a report that the investment committee doesn't recommend deviating from that. And then by approving the commissioner fund budget, it both approves the sources and the uses. So we just have the one vote to approve the 430 budget. So there's a recommendation here, but no action because the action is in the next report.
Great. So let's move to that.
Awesome. Let me make sure I'm on the right page here.
Thank you, Commissioner Nair.
Yes.
Great team.
Yes, clearly.
So I'll take the lead, and then when people enjoying a park. All right. So the 430 budget, as you can see on page 14, I'm just going to run through several tables, and then there's going to be a couple of them that I dig into a little deeper. But on page 14, you'll see the fund balances of all of our funds. We have $825,000 that are held and not being used of restricted funds that we won't be using this year that have specific purposes to what they are for. And then we have an additional 1.5 million of unrestricted dollars that are held back. And then you can see kind of how that lays out. So the 430 budget is $1 million of that. The commissioner's money market fund is 280,000 of it. And the commissioner investment account is $1 million of that. And then what we don't have is the unrealized gain, which we'll get on the 30th of June. So one thing to note is in previous years, when we passed the budget in August, we would kind of be able to show here was the spend last year. So we will still make that report in July or in August of here's how we did at spending that. But similar to when we do the city budget, we're doing it more on kind of tracking the spend as we go. And so some of these numbers will change a little bit, but we'll have a report on kind of where do the balances stand at the end of the year. So if we go to page 2, page 2 of this report, but page 15, you can see that we propose a endowment budget, a 430 budget of $1.2 million, $1,260,475. Of that, about 1.18 is for ongoing operational expenses. That 1.18 is funded by the endowment distributions and also the interest earned over the year. And so that is what accounts for that. Again, aligning revenue to expenses directly. We additionally have about 75,000, specifically 78,274 of one-time expenses. This tracks with what HED has instituted, where our one-time expenses were noting in a different way than before, where they would just be kind of lumped into overall operational expenses. We're trying to line out one-time expenses in order to track those, again, back to sources. So of that, 51,000 of that is from a donation we got, the Wagner donation that funds all of the invasive species work that's being done in Burnett Woods. We hired mad scientists to do I think it was a 4 or 5 year contract. This is the last year of that where we'll spend the remaining money of that. it's had absolutely amazing success there. And, Burnet Woods is one of the parks where we've seen some real progress against honeysuckle and other invasives. And then we've got $24,000. That is money that last year we had in kind of an operating account, but it's for truck bed improvements to some trucks that won't arrive until next fiscal year. So we need to reauthorize them. It'll basically be a savings that you'll see when we kind of close the books out for this year. And then we need to reauthorize it. So it'll basically be fund balance that we don't get to this year, but we need to reauthorize it so we can spend it next year. And so you can see kind of in this first table how that $1.26 million is spent. Much of it for payroll, contractual service, materials and supplies, the three big line items in all of our budgets. We've got some fixed charges. And then lastly, we've got that $24,000 for vehicles. Additionally, and this is another change that Hedda and her team have brought to it, we're able to track budgets, not just by fund and where the source is, but now by function. And so you can see how this is broken down. Operational support, East District, West District. Those are different because some of these funds have, like Fleshman Gardens, are restricted to parks that are in the East District. So naturally, they would receive more of that. Facility maintenance, conservation and land management gets a lot of funding through the 430 budget. The green space team, explore nature, and then lastly, Rocky's team's communications, engagement, and volunteers. So again, another way to look at that total amount. And then the super big detail is on the following page, on page 16. If you want to review any of this, this shows kind of all of that, kind of how we break down from the kind of buckets on page 1 or the previous page down into kind of what the specifics are. One thing I'll point out, again, improvements that Hedda's team is bringing to this, but when you look at the FY26 budget, there are fewer line items. It used to be that we'd pass very few line items, and then Hedda's team would have to go back, and every time we have an expense outside of that, they've got to do some accounting gymnastics. And now we're trying to more appropriate align those and what, based upon historical spend and based upon interviews and discussions with the districts, the actual spend are, which should make the spending go even quicker once we get through it. And then page 17 has how that 1.26 million is laid out. Again, the top part of that is the piece that's coming out of the endowments. And then the other funding sources are show the park interest, and then the Wagner funding and the funding for the truck beds. Again, getting to that 2.6 million. And then the bottom table is just a little bit of a regurgitation of the previous one, but it shows specifically where those one-time expenses and how they're funded by one-time revenue sources, which again is ultimately our goal, is to make sure we are better aligning available resources with specific spend. So all told, the final sentence is that we recommend approving the FY27 Fund 430 private endowment budget in the amount of $1,260,475. We have been knee deep in this, wading through it, and I am happy to, Hedda and I are happy to answer any questions you guys have about what we've done. Between this budget and what we've done with the budget we passed last month and how we've aligned that, we're really excited to kind of enter FY27 for the first time under this new structure. And one of the things we'll be doing kind of in July and in the fall is analyzing all the spend, how all the spend lined up with, again, kind of what we budgeted in February and you approved in March, how this 430 budget augments that, and then any realignments we want to make as we head into the biennial budget, which even though the city approves the budget every year, the biennial is the bigger budget approval. And we really think there's going to be even further cleanup that will be less apparent because it won't be structural, but it'll be more like, less money for paper clips, more money for staples, that kind of stuff. But the cleanup that we've done is going to allow us to now dig in and have those individual investigatory processes to really realign and make sure that we're being as efficient as possible and deploying resources where we actually need them. So it's exciting stuff. This has been something I've been hoping to do since I started, as I first started to learn about our books and kind of how confusing it was. And just through me kind of talking about it, Hedda's been able to bring it to life. So really excited for, she just had completed her second year of being with Parks and
Feels like 5.
some days. But the progress has been really tremendous. I just want to thank Hedda publicly. That's been a really good job.
I can jump on that. I was a founding member of the investment committee, and the funds were always spent in the spirit and the letter of the intended donors, but the clarity around it is radically enhanced in the past year. So thank you. That doesn't just happen. Yeah. So thank you for making that happen, and your team. You're not a one-person shop, but it is getting done, and importantly so. Thank you.
I agree. I think you've clearly evidenced every way to slice and dice. I do have one question. I know we account for things by East and West District. Do we track it down to the park?
No. That would be very difficult because, you know, we buy in bulk, we buy mulch in bulk, we buy plant plugs in bulk. And so knowing, you know, these 5,000 plant plugs go to East and those 7,000 go to West, it just, we don't have.
Not there.
I mean, we have the capability. It would just be, we'd need 5 years out. Yeah.
There are a couple of parks that we produce reports that show kind of the overall spend. And they're generally based upon if there's a endowment that goes to them. So for instance, we do a report for House Botanic Gardens because it has a fund specifically designed to show that to help fund that. With our partners at 3CDC that were here earlier, we do reports for Ziegler and Washington Park to show kind of what our contribution to those parks are. And to show kind of how it always greatly exceeds what's specifically budgeted for different parks, but there's all the other time and labor that we dedicate to those parks. So.
Any other questions for Hetzer or Jason? We are seeking an approval on the budget. And that has been included in this memo in several different ways. $1.2 million budget is what we seek to approve. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second,
President Norris,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Castellini,
yes.
Mr. McCallum,
yes,
Mr. Knight.
Yes.
All right. Derek must be at civil service.
As always. So things are going really well. As always, 170 full-time employees right now, 77 part-time, although that's ramping up for the spring. We currently have 6 job postings. Most of those are seasonal positions. The big thing I want to highlight is the All Staff's coming up on April 23rd, which is next Thursday. All of you are encouraged to join us. It is 11:30 at Maple Ridge Lodge in Mount Airy Forest. It's always a great time. I will caution this is not the All Staff with the tug of war contest, which is kind of a appointment viewing. But we will have other fun and games going on, and there'll be some great food provided by the Cincinnati Parks Foundation. And it's just a great time to get ready to kick off the season and get everybody fired up to be working in parks and be out serving the community.
Can I just one question? How many part-time people are you looking for? What is the total number you'd like?
That fluctuates depending on the season and the available funds. This year, we spent a little bit more in the first half of the year. So we've had to tighten up what's available for the second half of the year in order to make sure the budget's balanced for the end of the year. And so it depends. We just had a big meeting. I don't have it off the top of my head, but each division has a certain amount of available positions. I know from talking to Crystal yesterday that they're currently trying to hire 3 people in green space, for instance. But each section has a different amount of folks. And then one of the things, again, another cleanup that Hedda's team's helped us, but it used to be that we would have kind of available slots, but not necessarily available budget. And so now we're aligning that to be, so as we set the budget up for next year, starting on the first of the year, where in order to make sure that we don't accidentally overspend, it's not, we're not thinking of it as slots as much as thinking of it as an amount available. So you could hire 100 people to work 10 hours, and that's one way to spend 1,000 hours of time or 1,000 hours of budget. Or you can hire 10 people to work 100 hours, and then we're leaving it up to the individual sections to make those determinations. But before it would be you have 10 slots, and so we didn't have great tracking into how we spent that, and then it would be absorbed into kind of position vacancies. we haven't had as many vacancies this year, so we've had to keep a couple of them vacant on purpose. And so we need to make sure that we more accurately align what our true seasonal need is with the available budget. So another fun puzzle we're figuring out, but it's getting aligned in a really good way.
I said this last season, anybody who has a yard knows how fast spring comes, and for you, it comes very fast to get in front of everything that's growing and get the beds in good shape as people are getting out. You've done a great job. The parks look amazing. I'm curious, it seems we've had an unusually low number of rain days in April. That been helpful?
Not so much. I mean, either way, the grass is certainly gonna start
Yeah.
growing. So April probably is the month where they're just trying to get their
Yeah.
feet under them again to go from snow to mowing grass again and get all those routines.
All right.
Everybody trained and ready to go again, so.
Well, it's more time to get out there and get the work done.
Yeah,
I know.
Still have to prepare for it and.
Sure.
You're gonna mow probably just as much as if it was raining, or maybe less, because you can't necessarily mow when it is raining.
Exactly, right. Well, everything looks great. Nice job. We're ready to move on to the in-kind contribution.
Yep, so our foundation always helping out. This quarter or quarter one of 2026 or Q3 of FY26 for our fiscal year. They have made in-kind contributions in the amount of $62,387.50. And then the detail of that is specifically on the next page, where you can see that much of it is for horticultural supplies. A little bit of it is kind of general support, including the appraisal that we're getting done for that land that is near Mount Storm. And then some of it is for park events. And a little bit of it for the new Castle of Air sign for Theodore M. Barry International Friendship Park that has been installed or is getting installed. Been installed. I think we're having an event for that, or like a.
Yeah, there'll probably be some.
Yep, so we'll have a little event to kind of commemorate that. Yep, the Munich Sister Cities Association has donated that sign to us, so really nice. Again, varied in the sundry things, but all helping us keep parks looking great and activating them. So recommend accepting those donations.
Second.
Or, yeah, Vice President Lee.
Yes.
Yes,
Commissioner Castellini,
yes,
Commissioner McCallum,
I can go hearing her.
yes,
Commissioner Nyerg.
Yes.
Okay, director comments. Compliments.
Absolutely. Drone Butterfly Show, Destination Monarch opens May 8th and runs through August 9th. It celebrates the epic migration journey taken by monarch butterflies each year across the US and Mexico. We'll also be unveiling a huge new butterfly that will be displayed outside Crone each year. This was made possible by a very generous donor. We've had a butterfly for years that was kind of old and difficult to get up there, and a real challenge for our facilities team. We've got this new butterfly, as you can see it getting constructed. There'll be like transparent wings where you see the hole there, and we'll be able to decorate those in different ways. We can use vinyl decals, so we can kind of update it every year, but it'll also have brackets that are attached to Crone specifically to hold it. And so it'll be much easier to install every year. And it's just new and vibrant, and it's going to be really, really neat. You see the name of the donor there. And I did not write it down, but she has a very unique and pretty name. But anyways, it's going to be really great. I'd also point out.
Miranda Rose.
Yep, I think that sounds right.
First time that's been said.
The light hits it just right. But I also point out, last month we had a celebration of life at Crone for one of our longtime volunteers. And Mona Puckett volunteered at Crone for well over 30 years. She kind of started right around the time the butterfly show started. Her and her husband volunteered a lot. He unfortunately passed several years ago, but we had a really beautiful remembrance for her at Crone. Her son Tim and her daughter were there. Tim volunteered a lot there as well. As you often do, after one of your parents passed or loved one passed, he found this treasure trove of butterfly pens that she had collected over the years. I can tell from experience when you get involved in something specific. When I was in bikes, people would give me bike socks and bike paintings and bike dish towels. Mona collected butterflies because she was always worked at the butterfly show. It was just an ever ready presence at Crone. And so at the memorial, he was giving out remembrance cards as you do at a memorial, but each one of them had a butterfly attached to it. And so he was like, you're not leaving without a butterfly. And so it's really nice to be able to remember Mona with this butterfly and also just kind of be excited about the butterfly show and the annual event. And it was a really neat way to honor her and to kind of reuse those butterflies that she collected. And I'm sure she is very pleased to know they're out in the world celebrating something that was such a big and important part of her life that she dedicated so much time to it. So volunteer roundup, as always, our operations team is wound up to get going in the spring, and so is our volunteer team. We've got all kinds of stuff. Alt Park is having invasive species removal this Sunday with our friends at APAC. Also Sunday, we've got forest restoration projects happening in French Park, Walnut Woods of Evanston. On April 22nd, we have teams working with volunteers to mulch, spread playground chips, remove honeysuckle, and generally help the parks get ready for summer at Burnett Woods, Eden Park, Mirror Lake, Season Good Pavilion, and Owl's Nest. On April 24th, 100 employees of WorldPay Global Payments, Inc. will be mulching, spreading playground chips, and helping remove invasives along the trails of Alms Park. On the 25th, at California Woods, Scarborough Woods, Northside Green Space, and La Buena Woods, all having invasive species volunteer events. Also on April 25th, volunteers from North Avondale will be mulching and planting the Dana Triangle, Seasongood Square, and Marion Park, all right there in that one area, just west of Xavier. Mount Airy is hosting forest conservation events April 26th, 3rd. On May 2nd, the Harry Beecher Stowe House volunteers, one of our newest CPACs, will be gardening and removing invasive species. And there's just plenty happening. So if anybody is interested in volunteering at city parks, go to our website, and there's just a ton of ways to get involved. Get your hands dirty, but really help make our parks awesome. We had over 50,000 hours of volunteers last year, $1.9 million of contribution to the park system. When you think about, we have about a $28 million budget, that's an unbelievable contribution that we're getting for free from our wonderful volunteers. So you just can't thank them enough. The Bloom Zoom was the first, Lou was here earlier, but the first Parks 5K. Lou told me he's had this in his brain forever, but we finally able to activate it with some of our new event staff. We had 372 participants for the first ever 5K. Many people in this room, Hedda, Jenny, Kate, myself, were all participants in it. It was a lot of fun, just a really great event that raises money for the park system, but also activates the parks. As you can see with the runners by the tulips, it just couldn't have been a better morning for it. It was absolutely perfect, and the park was looking beautiful. Hot off the presses, just yesterday, it was announced that Snail Riverfront Park was voted second best river walk in the United States. This is an annual USA Today public vote. 3 years ago, we were first. Last year, we were fourth. We're back up to second this year. But just a recognition, whether first or fourth, that Snail Riverfront Park is just one of the absolute gems of the country, and that we're lucky to have it here. And our team does just a great job keeping it looking beautiful and competing so well. Events. I mentioned the all staff before on the 23rd, next Thursday at Maple Ridge. Owl's Nest renovation engagement. Also on April 23rd, we're having a community engagement. The Parks Foundation and Reds Community Fund, as part of what we're doing, as part of our renovation project, the Reds Community Fund has come in and said they want to renovate that ball field and make some renovations there. So we're taking that to the community to get community support and buy-in and make sure that that is a project that they all are excited about. Arbor Day tree planting with CPS students next Friday, April 21st at Rothenberg Preparatory Academy. You can see some photos from last year. This is always a great event. 32 trees we planted by our staff, volunteers of the school, as well as at neighboring Grant Park, which is CRC site. And we'll be joined by Vice Mayor Kearney. And of course, Mr. Tree will once again make an appearance, which is our very own urban forestry mascot. The Neighborhood Summit is also next week on Saturday, the 25th. Always a great event. I'm part of a panel with Daniel Betts of CRC and Jen Spicer to talk about Cincinnati Parks and Rec for Wellness, and to get the community excited about that and tell all of the great success we've had there. Alt Parks Vines Fine Wine. Alt Vines Fine Wines. That's a tongue twister. Is a wine tasting event at Alt Park Friday the 24th. All kinds of fine wines, but it'll also feature live music and food, again, supported by the Alt Park Advisory Council. Springfest in Burnett Woods is next Saturday, April 25th. Music, bubbles, face painting, wildflower walks, yoga, nature-based education activities, food, music, always a fun time. Alms Mayfest, the Flower Moon, is on May 1st. Partnership with the Alms Ally, the CPAC at Alms, which is the CPAC at Alms, and will feature telescope gazing of the flower moon with astronomer Dean Regis, and live music from the Hot Magnolias, food trucks, plenty of food and fun for the whole family. And lastly, on my list, Mom's Night Out at Mount Echo will happen May 9th. If you can believe it, Mother's Day is just around the corner, and Mom's Night Out is a fun celebration hosted by the Mount Echo Park Advisory Council. Features an evening of music, dancing, food, community connection, and celebration of mothers. So just another great event. You can see a photo of that from last year. So director's comments get long in April as things really ramp up, but just again, a million ways that things are happening in parks and people are having fun and getting out there and enjoying our natural environment.
Commissioners?
I piped up all of them.
Anything? Commissioner McCollum? Great. We will be back at it on May 21st. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh. Meeting adjourned. Get confused about that part. Good.